Arne Slot. It seems like it's all getting a bit too much for him, because we might be a smaller club than Liverpool, but we're not the ones that spent 130 million on a man whose groin is made of candy floss and who quite literally can't score a goal unless he's on the same pitch as Jacob Murphy. Right, now, there's absolutely loads for me to talk about, largely because I've been a bit shit, to be honest, and I haven't been uploading as much as I probably should be. Obviously, I spoke about it in the last video, and I am going to Thailand tomorrow from when I'm filming this on Monday, so I'm going to Thailand on Tuesday. If you're watching this on Tuesday, then I'm going to Thailand today. So yeah, there's tons to talk about that I haven't covered because I haven't spoke about the Benfica game or the Fulham game. So we've got back-to-back wins. Nick Pope got an assist. We're in the top sort of tier cohort thing group of the Champions League. The attack is sort of starting to look a little bit like it's starting to click. David Hopkinson's come in, our new CEO, and has already started to make apparently really positive changes towards like the culture of the club. There was a few sort of grumbles about the atmosphere after the Benfica game and obviously the Fulham game as well. I don't think anyone ever really expected much atmosphere from that one. Woltemade can't fucking buy a free kick. Alexander Isak can't buy a fucking goal. And obviously Arne Slot isn't dealing particularly well with the fact that Isak can't buy a goal and the fact that Liverpool seem to be in absolute turmoil. And as I said in one of my previous videos, as a Newcastle fan who just absolutely despises Isak for the way that he treated this club, I could not be more here for every second that his career just goes down the shitter. Oh, and despite Sandro being linked away to every club in Italy for like 40 million or something stupid, and many other clubs in the Premier League, he's signed a new contract at Newcastle. But anyway, because I've been a bit shit and I haven't been uploading as much, as I said, when I went to the Fulham game, I was walking down Northumberland Street after the game, and I thought I'd quickly pop into JD Sports. And a lot of you have asked me about the pink top when you've seen it in a video. So I walked into JD Sports, and lo and behold, there was 4 pink tops in JD Sports. Now, obviously, I don't have the money to buy all 4, but what I did do, because I've been a bit shit, because I haven't been uploading as much, what I've done in this little JD bag right here, I bought for you guys the pink goalkeeper shirt that no one can seem to get hold of. When I went into JD Sports, they had 3 XLs and they had 1 large left. And sorry if any of you guys want to enter and you are in an XL size, but I kind of figured that large would be probably the most kind of across the board size that would fit most of you. So I could only get 1, so it is a size large. But if you want a chance to win this, it's the same as usual, score prediction and first goal scorer as a reply to the pinned comment. All details for the giveaway will be in the description, and I will run that pink shirt giveaway every week right up until someone nails their prediction and someone wins. Of course, I'm not taking it to Thailand with me because I'm not posting it from Thailand because that cost me loads. So I'm just gonna, as soon as I finish this video, I'm gonna go package it up. I'm gonna put a blank address thing on the front, and then as soon as someone wins, your address will be going on the front of that and it will be sent out to you. So get your entries in for a chance to finally get hold of one of the pink shirts that everyone's been trying to get hold of. But for now, let's get on with the video, because as I said, there's a lot of things to talk about since I've last made a video, and I'm not going to go over all of them because otherwise this would be like a 40-50 minute long video. So I'm just going to go over the few sort of main things that I want to talk about, and then we'll leave it there and onwards and forwards to the Spurs game. So obviously the things I'm going to talk about kind of the people complaining about the atmosphere. I'm going to talk about the constant fouls on Woltemade and his seeming inability to get a free kick. And then I've also got some thoughts on Arne Slot's comments about Newcastle, and obviously just his, you know, throwing the toys out the pram because he can't handle that Isak isn't working out as well as he'd hoped it would. So on the topic of the atmosphere, because obviously after the Fulham game, I don't think anyone really expected a major atmosphere from the Fulham game, so there wasn't really many comments about the atmosphere after the Fulham game other than the sort of what carried on from the Benfica game. I think people had expected a big atmosphere from the Benfica game, and so much so that someone actually made a video for the most expensive ticket they'd ever paid for. And I didn't actually watch the video, if I'm honest, but I'm assuming it's because they'd seen, you know, what a Newcastle Champions League night can be like. So, you know, obviously ticket touts have massively bumped up the prices of Newcastle tickets for Champions League nights because it's, you know, almost it is like an occasion that people want to experience, like, you know, almost like a bucket list kind of thing for a football fan. The problem with that is that it's Newcastle fans that create that atmosphere. So if loads of tourists turn up wanting to see the atmosphere and replace all the Newcastle fans that create the atmosphere, then the atmosphere goes. But that's not kind of like me making an excuse for it, because I can fully understand that the entire stadium hasn't been replaced by tourists. It's only like a small minority of seats that have been replaced by people just wanting to see the atmosphere and not contribute to it. So I understand that that's not the main reason why there wasn't an atmosphere for that game. The reason I think there wasn't an atmosphere for that game is partially down to, as I said, the tourists and, you know, the way that the club have pushed for more money because PSR, and because of that, they have sort of ended up alienating some of the more vocal fans as a result. Obviously, you understand it to a certain extent because it's just PSR dictates how we have to operate, but at the same time, obviously, trying to push everything towards these kind of corporate seats and, you know, corporate packages and stuff like that, it has sort of inadvertently led to a slightly shitter atmosphere at times. But that's not the main reason I think the Benfica game was a shit atmosphere, because if we cast our mind back not that long ago, the Liverpool game was a fucking incredible atmosphere. And, you know, I don't think that everything's drastically changed in that time. I think the difference being that our atmosphere isn't something like Dortmund's, for example, where Dortmund's is just singing the entire game, but it's like orchestrated by drums. You know, they've got a guy at the front who kind of just sits there just singing songs and then they all just copy him. Like, it's almost a bit like Americanized, because I remember back when Dortmund came to Newcastle, I remember being sat next to, like, I was right next to the Dortmund fans. I was up in level 7 next to the away fans, and it just wasn't intimidating at all. And I know that obviously they're famous for like the yellow wall and all that kind of stuff, but the point I'm trying to make here is that I don't think in the Premier League anyone really sings for 90 minutes, because we don't have drums and we don't have all this kind of like orchestrated kind of what seemed to me a bit like fake atmosphere. And when I say the Dortmund fans were intimidating, it's because like I found it just to be almost like a catchy tune, because for the majority of the game it was just like boom boom boom, ole ole, boom, 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 ole, ole. Like, it was just, it got to the point where, because they drowned out our sound so much, because of these just boom, 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 ole, ole, like, because that was just going on and on and on and on, we'd just kind of given up singing, because you couldn't really hear it, because all you could hear was these really loud drums. So, like, it got to a point where I was just and obviously we were losing in the game, but it got to a point where I found myself tapping along to the drums, like, oh, actually, no, that's theirs. Like, because it wasn't intimidating, it wasn't motivating, and I think, like, when our atmosphere is at its best, it's intimidating. It's motivating for our team. It's intimidating for the opposition. You know, when you see Dan Burn absolutely clatter someone into the stands and then the entire stadium erupts, like, that's proper atmosphere. And this kind of brings me on to the Benfica game as to why I think the atmosphere was a bit crap, is simply because there was nothing really to get behind. The first half of the game started really, really, really slow. There was nothing really for anyone to kind of like get sort of G'd up by, for the fans to get behind. As like, there was just, it's not to say that we only get behind the team when they're winning, but there was just no energy. There was nothing really. It was a very slow, very kind of like boring game. And I think what Mourinho said before the game kind of sums it up perfectly. Like, in Newcastle, it's very different to places down south, like places, you know, like Chelsea and Arsenal, you know, probably different to the majority of the Premier League, because it's such a one club city where this club is essentially everything to the majority of the people in the city. Like, it is football, is just everything to the city of Newcastle. And when we go to a game on the weekend, we go to sort of kick the ball alongside, we go to play alongside the players, as Mourinho said. So, like, our atmosphere is based on pure passion and reaction to things. And if there's nothing really to react to, whether it's, you know, the team are doing well or whether they're not doing well, we don't have to be winning. But if we're, you know, putting in a lot of energy, chasing players down, clattering, crunching tackles, like, it can be just that. But there has to be something for us to react to, not just kind of like really slow, just energyless sort of passing around and just standard kind of low block defending and stuff like that. Like, you can't get behind that. Like, no one's ever watching Dan Burn jockey a right winger and then just sort of send him back the way he came, not even take the ball off him and just be like, and get behind it. Like, there was nothing to get behind. So that's kind of why there was no atmosphere. And as I said, that kind of like idea that any sort of club sings for 90 minutes straight, it's a bit of a myth. No one does that. Like, a lot of people try and fame Liverpool for their atmosphere. They sing "You'll Never Walk Alone" at the start, and then you don't hear much from them for the rest of the game. The only clubs that I can think of as an example, as I said earlier, of clubs that I think sing for the full 90 minutes are your clubs like Dortmund. And again, for me, I would rather have our atmosphere that's more reactive and passionate than just 90 minutes of boom, 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 ole, ole, boom, 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 ole. Like, it's just, for me, that's not real atmosphere. It's just very like orchestrated orchestrated and fake, and it just, as I said, it doesn't motivate, it doesn't intimidate, it doesn't like, it's not electrifying. And Newcastle's atmosphere on its day is still fucking electrifying, and that just wasn't the game for it. Maybe I haven't explained that as well as I think I have in my head, but yeah, hopefully it's coming across to you guys. Hopefully it sort of makes sense. Let me know what you think in the comments as to kind of, you know, if you disagree or agree with me, if you think that, you know, the atmosphere has just completely died, you know, and if so, why do you think the atmosphere has completely died? Obviously I get what people are saying about the kind of the corporate sort of transition that the club is trying to make and how that's affected the atmosphere. So if you think that there's just a lot of that going on, let me know what you think in the comments. But moving on to the next point, the next one is about Woltemade not being able to buy a free kick, because this is something that I've been thinking for a while now, and it was really, really bad in the Fulham game. Like week on week, obviously Woltemade has a massive advantage by being a striker who is 6'6". He absolutely towers over the majority of Premier League defenders, and usually with a player who is 6'6" tall, usually the problem, you know, the trade-off with being 6'6" is they're not particularly technical with their feet. Obviously, Woltemade is a nightmare for defenders because he's 6'6", can muscle and bully defenders. You know, he has the height advantage, so he can win most aerial duels, but he also can control the ball with his feet, so they basically can't get the ball off him. But what I've been finding for a few weeks now is that he doesn't really have that height advantage, because even if they are shorter than him, all they do is they just jump on his back essentially. They essentially use his shoulders to pole vault themselves up and get on top of him anyway. And if they're not doing that, they're just basically grabbing him, ragging him down. And it's as if like there's some kind of view of like, oh, you're 6'6", you shouldn't be brought down that easily. And it's like, no. No, that doesn't make sense. Like, at the end of the day, you know, if you hack someone's legs away or if you rag them down, it doesn't matter how fucking tall they are. The bigger you are, the harder you fall, as the saying goes. And yeah, I can't understand why every single week Woltemade is just getting like it was a piss take against Fulham. He's getting absolutely ragged down the whole game, and it got to a point where you were almost laughing at the referee, like how much he was just gonna let the defenders get away with in terms of just ragging Woltemade down over and over and over again. Something really needs to like be looked into as to why they are just not giving anything against Woltemade. Like, it seems as if someone is determined for him to fail, because they're just letting defenders absolutely fucking bully him. And like, if you look at like a fair battle, if you look at when things are fair, he bullies defenders. Like, he is impossible to get the ball off. So it seems as if they're just being like, right, well, if you are impossible to get the ball off, then we're just going to make it so that it is possible by letting them just fucking beat the shit out of you. And I think the thing that's even crazier than anything really is that a couple of weeks ago when he got elbowed in the face by Gabriel, obviously there was no foul given then as well. But if you look back at that, in the interview after that, he came out and said that he doesn't like to be a player that goes down easily. Like, he likes to be an honest player. And it's as if the referees, like, I'm not saying they should take that into account, but like, he isn't someone who goes down all the time. He isn't someone who dives, yet he is having to spend half the fucking game on the floor because he's been ragged down all the time and he's getting given nothing. But anyway, again, let me know what you think in the comments, because yeah, for me, it's something that I've noticed for weeks now, but in that Fulham game, it was a complete and utter piss take. And then, of course, the last thing we need to talk about, we can't end the video without talking about Arne Slot being a little baby. Now, I've seen a lot of comments on, like, posts about this on, like, you know, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I've seen a lot of comments where people have sort of said, like, oh, I really liked Arne Slot. I kind of thought he was, like, quite respectful and, you know, like, how he handled himself in interviews and stuff. And they're kind of saying, like, it's a shame that he's kind of gone down this path and that they sort of didn't really expect it from him and stuff like that. And, like, I don't know how. I don't know how people see Arne Slot in that way, because I remember back last season when Liverpool lost really early on in the season to Nottingham Forest. And I remember the way that he kind of went about that after losing to Nottingham Forest. Like, he kept on bringing them up in interviews and kind of saying, you know, how they'd spent a load of money and how, you know, they were like playing like anti-football and all these kind of things. And it's kind of what he also said about us when he played against us early in the season, how we played kind of anti-football. And I just kind of think that, like, when things are going well for any manager, they always seem great. Like, I remember a lot of fans thought Andrew was sound right at the start of his tenure at Spurs because he started off with that really good start. And I think realistically, you can't judge a manager based on how they are when things are going well, because when things are going well, managers are usually always pretty sound in interviews. What you have to judge them on is when the questions get hard. And that's obviously one thing we can take a lot of pride with in Eddie Howe. And that's why with Eddie Howe, like, even if he wasn't, you know, doing as well as he is, like, for me, he has a lot of credit in the bank, obviously with, you know, the cup win and stuff like that. But outside of the cup win, he has a lot of credit in the bank just for like how well he represents the club in the media. And I'm not saying you just stick with a manager just because he's Mr. Nice Guy. He is obviously, he's a great manager as well. He's done incredible things for the club. But like, I think you'd give him a bit more leeway when results were going bad for a while, because you just know that, you know, he handles these situations so well. And I think in turn, that obviously also makes the results turn around eventually, because he's such a respectable guy that the players will fight for him. The players will want to play and give their all for him, because he is the type of guy that you would want to give your all for, because he's just so respectable in everything that he says. He's just so professional, so calculated. And I think like that's, you know, when things have been going badly for Eddie Howe, I mean, look at the summer as an example. You know, he had so many hard questions to answer in that, and I spoke about this in my last video. He had so many hard questions to answer in the summer, and he handled them all really, really, really well. And I think now when things are going badly for Arne Slot, this is where you really get to see a manager's true colours, because as I said, everything went so well for Liverpool last season. They nearly won a treble. Obviously they did bottle it in the end, but they did win the title, so it was a good season, a very good season for Liverpool overall. So there was no real opportunity for Arne Slot to slip up and, you know, get anything wrong really, and, you know, kind of make a tit of himself and just act like a bit of a baby as he is now, because why would he? Everything's going well. And as I say, I think it's when things are going badly, that's when you can judge a manager. And I think, as I said, back when Nottingham Forest beat Liverpool really early on into Arne Slot's tenure at Liverpool, I think for me, that was the sign straight away that you just know that as soon as things went down the pan, he was going to become a dickhead. And some of the fucking shit that he's been coming out with this season, obviously saying that we were playing anti-football when we were dominating them with 10 men. He came out with some absolute bollocks after Man United beat them the other week, saying about teams change their players to play Liverpool. Like, well done. Squad rotation is a thing. People have substitutes. Like, yeah, I don't know. Some of the shit that he's been coming out with, like, he's just starting to seem a bit like, I don't know, not quite as bad as Arteta, but he's not a manager I'm a big fan of, which, to be honest, sort of seems to come with the territory of being Liverpool manager, because Jurgen Klopp was the same. So yeah, anyway, next game, Spurs in the cup. Obviously, as I said at the start of the video, there will be a giveaway for that game in the comments to this video. Pinned comment, get your prediction in for a chance to win the pink Newcastle shirt that I showed at the start of the video, the one that everyone's been trying to get their hands on. So as a reply to the pinned comment, reply with your first goal scorer and your score prediction for the Spurs game. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.